If you're a salon or spa owner, cosmetology school gave you the skills to serve clients, but it didn't prepare you to run a business. You probably thought ownership would mean freedom, but instead you're working harder than ever, barely paying yourself, and worried that everything's going to fall apart the second you step away. Welcome to the station, where we give you real strategies, systems, and structure so you can step into the CEO seat where you belong. Hey friends, welcome back to the station. This is a podcast for salon and spa owners who are ready to step fully into leadership, build profitable, driven systems, and finally create a business that gives you your life back. I'm Bree, founder of the Beauty Biz Agency, and as always, I've got my amazing co-host, co-founder, and bestie here with me today. Hey Chandra, how are you?
Hello, doing really good today.
Nice. All right, so today's topic is one that I know a lot of people out there listening are going to feel deep in their gut, I think. We are going to talk about the hidden cost of those good enough stylists that we all seem to just keep around forever. You know the ones. They're nice, they show up, they don't cause too much drama, but they also don't grow. They don't rebook well, they don't sell retail, and their numbers, they probably haven't really changed in years. And because they're not a problem, we just kind of keep letting them slide or letting them ride the wave. They're easy, they're comfortable, they're safe. But I think what we want to show all of you out there today is that that's safe. It can actually be incredibly expensive if you aren't careful. Because while these stylists or technicians, they might not be causing you all of these problems, they're quietly costing you a lot of things, not just money. And if you're not careful, you are going to start building your businesses around their comfort instead of your standards. So before we dive in, we have to share a win with you that came from one of our amazing BBA members. And I think it kind of fits in perfectly with what we're going to talk about. She had a stylist who had been with her for years. She was loyal, she was dependable, and the clients liked her just fine. But her numbers, they had been flat for almost 3 years straight. No growth, no retail, no rebooking improvement, none of those things. And the owner of the salon told us she's not a problem, she's just kind of there. And when she said that, Chandra and I both knew exactly what we had to work on. So during one of her one-on-one calls, we pulled the numbers and compared them to all of the benchmarks that we had created. And when we did the math, we found out that that stylist, she was producing almost $4,000 less a month than what the salon average even was. That's terrible. Guys, that is $48,000 a year in lost revenue from one chair alone. One chair. So we got to work. We created a coaching plan, a clear 90-day improvement path, and accountability systems that she could present to this stylist. About a week later, she had the conversation with that stylist, and throughout the next 90 days, she gave the stylist the support that she needed, and the owner followed through very, very well with every part of the systems that we built. After the 90 days were up, there was still no change. So the owner made the tough call to let her go. And within a few months, that open chair became one of her highest producing chairs that she had. The owner told us later, I was so scared to lose her, but keeping her was the thing holding my salon back. Chandra, I think so many owners, they stay stuck just right there in that in-between space where the stylist isn't too bad, but they're also not doing anything amazing. They're not growing. They're not doing the things that you have to do. Why do you think that's such a hard thing for owners to clearly see and deal with?
I think a lot of it's emotional because they see this person and they're like, oh, they're good. They show up. I could rely on them. They don't cause problems and they don't want to rock the boat. Right. And so I think that they just kind of let them skate. They don't want to have the conversation. They don't want to push them. They don't want to do any of those things because they're just afraid of losing them. And I think they don't realize that that is holding your business back. Like I've been guilty. I've kept a lot of those people for many years over the course of owning my salon, and it always hurt us. And so I think that, people don't realize that. They just think they're there and, they hurt your culture too, because they don't strive for growth. And that starts to make other team members like feel like they can kind of just skate, And so I think it's definitely one you have to nip. And everybody, I think owners a lot of times are afraid of holding people accountable at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think owners would rather deal with anything over drama. Anything. And I also know that everything people have been through in this industry, you and I know it's hard. I get where they're coming from. It's like there's this kind of peace that comes with having people who don't make waves, right? But the truth is, what looks peaceful might actually be the worst thing that you could ever have in your business. One of the things that I think is really important is good enough. That doesn't mean stable. It means stagnant. And that's the last thing you ever want in business. Stagnant energy in a salon is always going to cost you more than you think because it costs you in your profit. And this is one of the reasons that salons have such horrible profitability, not only because of their numbers, but because they allow things like this. It also is going to cost you in momentum, like you said earlier, in culture. But worst of all, I think it costs you in your standard. And the part that hurts the most is that these are often people that we care about deeply. I get it. They've been with us for years. You probably know their families, you know their stories, you know their struggles, you know everything about them. So when you notice that they've kind of stopped growing, it almost feels personal to make a decision, to do anything, to have a conversation. And I think that's where everything gets really, really blurry, right? Because you let that guilt kind of creep in. And when that guilt walks in, I think the standard walks out. And that is a big, big problem. You rationalize everything. You tell yourself all of those things that we talked about. She's not that bad. She's consistent. She's earned a little bit of grace because she's been loyal. We hear that one all the time. But everybody in your salon is watching. They watch who gets coached, who doesn't. They're watching who gets held accountable, like Chandra said, who gets a pass. They're watching what really matters here in this studio, and they are going to adjust their efforts accordingly. They're going to do that. That's a hidden cost of good enough. It's not just about one stylist's performance, it's about what it teaches the rest of the room in all reality. So I think let's kind of name these triggers or the topics of reasons why people keep good enough, Chandra, and talk about those a little bit. You mentioned a lot of them. Let's talk about fear first, because I think this is usually the root of everything. Fear sounds like, what if I let her go and nobody replaces her? What if I lose income while I'm searching for somebody new? And I think those fears are valid. But the reality is that fear is costing you money as well. And it's going to continue it. You're already losing income by keeping somebody who's underperforming. You're already losing opportunity by holding a chair that could belong to somebody who's hungry, who's a go-getter, who's willing to do the things they need to do. I always tell owners this: the fear of an empty chair keeps more salons broke than bad months ever could. And that stings and it hurts, but it is 1,000,000% true. You can always recover from a few weeks of lost service revenue, but you cannot recover from years of suppressed potential. To be honest, that fear is rarely about the numbers. It really is. It's about control when you really dig down deep. It's that voice inside saying, if I let them go, I don't know what's going to happen next, right? It's that control piece. But leadership, guys, you are a leader, and leadership means choosing growth even when you can't control the outcome. It's choosing to believe that an empty chair creates space for something better. You have to have the faith. You have to believe that there's something better out there. Chandra, the root, the fear, we hear that it's about the numbers all the time, but I really do think it's about the control. What do you think on that? I'm interested to see if I'm just crazy in thinking that, or if you think that that's pretty much accurate.
I mean, I think you're pretty accurate. I think that is, I mean, when we see that and you actually break the numbers down, a lot of times what they're worried about when it comes to the numbers doesn't even make sense. And so I think when you go past that and you do kind of discover it is that fear, it could be the control, it could be just again, they're just afraid of rocking the boat. They're afraid of the unknown, and they're not thinking about the business in the future. They're just thinking about the business right now. And I think that's where a lot of them get stuck, and they get afraid to pull the trigger on any of those things because they're not thinking about long term. They're just thinking about that short term
Yep.
band-aid or whatever that looks like. So yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. And then I think the guilt, and I think the
Mhm.
guilt runs really deep, especially for women in leadership. Especially like you feel guilty for even thinking about replacing somebody who's been loyal. You feel guilty for wanting more when everyone else seems fine just staying where they are. You feel guilty for being the one who has outgrown the current version of your business. Guilt and leadership do not go together. Guilt is emotional noise that is going to keep you small forever. It really will. You can honor someone's loyalty and still hold them accountable. You can love someone as a person and still outgrow them professionally. You can appreciate their years of service and still recognize that they no longer align with where you want your business to go. You're not a bad person for wanting to keep moving your business forward. You're a leader. And leadership means making decisions that are right for the business, even when they may feel wrong in the moment. You cannot save someone from their own lack of growth by sacrificing yours. That is the best way to put it. Chandra, I know you and I have coached a lot of owners through this exact type of guilt, right? The I don't want to hurt their feelings type guilt. Why do you think so many owners mistake compassion for permission?
Oh, I think that I think they're more so just thinking about, well, like you said, like that guilty feeling, that feeling, what am I gonna, what's gonna happen to them if I let them go? Or, oh, they have so much potential. I see all this potential. I know they're gonna get it eventually. Like all of those things, I think we forget that, and we think we're being maybe compassionate, but I feel like at the end of the day, like it's not. It is sort of that guilt or that fear, like what you're talking about. Like I have a really funny story actually that I just thought of that I'll share with you guys really quick. One of the employees I had years ago, with this was I called him like my kryptonite because I kept trying to let this guy go and I just couldn't ever let him go. And he wasn't growing. He had low client retention, sweetest guy, sweetest kid, like so nice, late for work all the time, called out sick all the time, like broke every rule pretty much that we had. And for some reason, I just had it like in my heart for this guy. Like, I just feel like we're going to fix him. And I remember even the team felt like that because there was a couple times where I was like, I am done. He didn't show up for a meeting. I am done. And even the team would jump in and be like, oh no, we can't let him go. Like, even they felt like guilty about it. And I had this manager at the time who he called out again for like the fourth or fifth time in just a couple of weeks. And she just fired him over the phone. And I was like, oh my God, wait, like what? And I was so upset about it. But like literally, I was so happy because I realized right after that what I was doing that's not compassion, right? Like that's literally just holding
No.
everything back. It's making my team even feel guilty. Like it was just not a good situation. And as soon as he was gone, everything started to shift and change. And so it was just funny because I literally was like, she's like, I let him go. I told him we'll put his stuff in a box. He can come get it when he wants. And I was like, oh my God, I was so upset. But that was a good learning point for me for sure. So don't feel like you're being compassionate.
Absolutely. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with the next one. And that the next topic that came to my mind is avoidance. I think this is the one that we never admit out loud, right? Avoidance says things like, it's just not worth the fight. Maybe it'll get better. I'll deal with it next quarter, all of those types of things. But here's the thing, avoidance, it is never going to protect your peace. It is just going to delay the inevitable. Every week that you avoid the conversations, you're just reinforcing the problems that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You train your team that silence means acceptance. And before you know it, that one good enough technician or stylist, they are your new standard. It comes in quick, guys. It takes over quick. The team is going to stop stretching because they don't see you stretching as the leader. They stop trying because they don't see you holding the line where you need to hold it. And that is how you get those small cracks in your culture. It's not overnight, it's slowly, it's through every single moment that you choose comfort over clarity. That's the reality of it. Chandra, you and I have seen this pattern over and over again, especially with avoidance, where an owner just, avoids that one tough conversations for 3, 6, 9 months even. And by the time they finally address it, the entire salon's energy has just changed. Why in the world do owners avoid things like this in the beauty industry?
I think it all stems down to their leadership and how they feel as a leader. And I think for some reason in our industry, salon owners get into it, but they don't realize they are the leader of the business and they're in charge. They think of themselves like everybody else. So they have a hard time letting somebody go because I feel like they're thinking of themselves as like a service provider, as an employee, instead of looking at the bigger picture. You're the one in charge, you're the leader. And that just seems to be such a difficult thing for owners in this industry to wrap their head around. I mean, even when we start working with them, I'm like,
Yep.
you're the one that's in charge. You have to handle this. And they're just like, oh, like they're so stressed out about it. It's like it takes a while to build that leadership. But I think that's a big reason. I think they just don't get that how important it is for their business to grow, and that it's kind of part of your job now. Like you stepped into that leadership role.
Yeah, and I think this is where being behind the chair really, really causes issues. And I'm just going to be honest with people out there because I do. When we are behind the chair, we stay in that stylist mentality. And so, like you said, we see ourselves in those people. It is really hard to lead when you put yourself on an even playing field with all of your employees. You actually can't lead that way because you're feeling everything that they're feeling. You're thinking of yourself just as them, like you said. That is why it's so important to at least have the option to be in that CEO role and then step back behind the chair if you need to, if you want to, whatever it looks like. But I think the mindset shift can only happen when it's optional. It's very, very hard to do when you're still back there. All right, guys, let's make this practical because awareness without action is never going to create change. So if you have a good enough stylist or technician that is on your team right now, here is a simple, simple framework so you can start turning that situation around like today. First of all, pull the numbers. You can't fix what you don't face. You just can't. So you have to get clear on their actual performance compared to whatever your benchmarks are, the rebooking, the retail, the retention, the service revenue. You need to get that data in black and white so you know exactly what it is. And then you want to create that coaching path. You want to map out 30, 60, 90 days of a growth plan. Specific goals need to be on here, real accountability checkpoints, not just vague, let's do better. It needs to be a real conversation with a real plan. Then you have to communicate that very, very clearly. Have the hard conversations. Do it with compassion, do it with clarity, but have them. You need to let people know where they stand, what's expected, what support they're going to receive, but what it's going to look like moving forward and the changes that they need to make. And then you have to hold that standard. This is the part where most of you guys start backpedaling. Like you just backpedal really, really quickly. You can't do that. If there is no improvement, you have to follow through. You have to protect your standard like your business depends on it because it does. It absolutely does. And then remember, trust the empty chair. An empty chair creates opportunity. It creates space for you to bring in somebody who's driven, who's hungry, who is more aligned. It protects your culture from slowly lowering its bar. Chandra, when owners finally do these steps, this work, when they set the standard, they coach clearly, they actually follow through, it's like something just changes like a light bulb overnight, right? What do you notice when this usually happens?
Well, I mean, I think your team actually gets more motivated and excited. I think the owner gets more motivated and excited because they're starting to step into that CEO role. think the scariest part is getting yourself into that role, but once you actually do, it becomes much easier. And I think then you start to get excited about helping them grow. Like you start to get more excited about making those changes in them. And I think what I see a lot of times too is a lot of those employees that are just good enough, once you actually start setting a clear path for them, start holding them accountable, majority of them actually step up and start doing it. There's going to be a few that won't, but that's kind of how you weed them out, right? Like you need to have a culture of growth and you need to have a culture with people who are wanting to strive to do more. And you're never going to get that if you don't hold them accountable. So I think that is, an instant change that you'll see in your team just from implementing these things like right away.
Great points. And I think even more so, the people that need to step up, they start doing it. It affects everybody in the salon, even the ones that are already hungry, already driven, they step up even more. So then your output is 3 times more than it ever would have been. It's that ripple effect in a very, very positive way. And it just creates a dynamic culture inside of your salon when you do all of these things. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. All right, guys, let's switch gears for just a second and move into our listener question for this week. This one came in from Shelly in North Dakota. She asked, how do you get your team actually involved in marketing themselves and the salon? I feel like I'm constantly the only one posting or talking about promotions, and I want them to take more ownership without feeling like I'm just constantly nagging at them. I think this comes up constantly, Chandra. It like we hear this
Oh,
all
yeah.
the time. So go ahead and answer that one for Shelly.
Yeah, I mean, I do this in my own salon, so I know that it works. And I think the only thing you can do is you have to set a system around that as well. We talk about systems all the time. You have to make it a requirement. You have to make it part of their growth plan. That's, the only way you're going to get them to really stay consistent. Because you can give them a fluffy talk and you can this and that motivation, I feel like lasts for like 5 minutes. And so once you actually set a criteria around it, I want to see you do X amount of marketing posts or X amount of marketing events, all those things as part of their growth plan. I think that you'll feel and you'll start to see they'll start doing it. They have to do it, but you have to hold them accountable. And that's the biggest piece of that is when it comes to the marketing as well. So I think create a system around it, put it in part of their growth and see where it goes. And that's something you can back off of as they start to get to higher levels too. And so that's something that, we have them really hit it hard in the marketing when they're building. And then as they start to get more built, they always have to stay on top of things, but they don't have to be as much. And that's a motivator for them too, to get through all of that in the beginning, I think.
Absolutely. I think when you're building this type of system, one, you have to be very, very clear. Your team needs to know exactly what to post, how to post it, why it matters. You can't just be vague in this area like, hey, share this or do this. You need to give them some structure. Give them weekly promo themes, give them example captions, hashtags, maybe even pre-written talking points. That will go a long way when you're getting your team used to this stuff. They have to take the ownership. Instead of just barking orders at them, tie it back to that personal growth, like Chandra said. Accountability is going to be huge. It's the part that's always missing in salons. So, what are those expectations exactly? Write them down so they can see them. Like we talk about benchmarks all the time, and those are really, really important. These social media benchmarks should be no different. It should be written down, black and white. They know exactly what to do. Give them ideas, though. I think that's the most important thing and something that we don't see. And if you have 2 or 3 people on your team that love social media, let them help you take the reins. Have them get everybody else pumped up and creating things together and doing all the things. The reality is, if you are a commission salon owner and you are doing 90% of the marketing, you're doing it all wrong because it should never, ever be that way. And once your team understands that when they promote themselves and when they promote the salon, everybody grows and everybody makes more money, you will start to see a shift in that area. It's
Mhm.
really, really important. All right, guys, here's what we want to leave you with today. Good enough stylist is never truly a good enough thing. It's expensive and it erodes your standard one small compromise at a time. So if you are serious about building a business that actually grows with you, not around these good enough stylists, you have to stop protecting them. You've got to get out of that comfort zone, and you have to start protecting your culture and your business. If you are ready to have these hard conversations with clarity, with confidence, we have built the tools that can help you do exactly that. We have all of this at the Beauty Biz Agency. So head over to our website, thebeautybizagency.com, grab some of our free resources, look at some of our coaching options, and let us help give you the support that you need to finally step into that CEO seat in your studio and live the life of freedom that you've probably been chasing for a really long time. And if this episode spoke to you or it helped in any way, please share it with another salon owner who needs to hear it. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. We so appreciate it. It helps other owners find us. Also, make sure that you're subscribed so you never miss out on what we have coming up next. Chandra, how can our listeners keep up with everything amazing that we have going on at the Beauty Biz Agency?
Yeah, make sure you follow us and check us out on Instagram and Facebook at the Beauty Biz Agency and at the Beauty Biz Mentors on TikTok. And check us out live on Facebook and YouTube the first Monday of every month at 6 p.m. Central Time.
Absolutely. We'd love to see you guys there. That's a wrap. You've been listening to The Station, where salon owners stop babysitting and start leading like the CEOs they were meant to be. Until next time, set the standard, protect your culture, and stop building your business around keeping the peace, because it will affect you negatively in the long run. Now go out there, make bank, run the show, and ditch that chair. And as always, keep slaying those business goals with a whole lot of swagger. If this episode lit a fire under you, don't just walk away and let it die out. Deep down, you already know where you want your business and your life to go. And the truth is, the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is a real plan to get you there. That's exactly what we help you build. So if you're ready to stop trying to figure it out on your own, head to thebeautybizagency.com and book your free strategy call. That call can give you the clarity that you've been needing and a real plan to move your business forward. Because at the end of the day, the only thing standing between you and the salon business you've been dreaming about is whether or not you're willing to take the action and the steps in order to build it.